So let's talk about it.
Let's
College
talk about
football
it.
playoffs.
Man, it sucks for them.
So we're talking about Florida State, okay? We're talking about the college football playoffs, and the committee came out with their top four who were going to make the playoffs, and Florida State, being the undefeated team from a Power 5 conference, did not make it in.
First time ever.
First time ever, okay? So I think the first thing we need to discuss is, do we all agree that they got snubbed?
I think it starts ACC. Was that the true power conference? Like, how many ranked teams do it really have? Did it really stand out this year in terms of quality, opponents, talent? What do you think?
Not much, but college football, right? There's 5 Power 5 conferences, and there's 4 playoff spots. Okay, so we know if everyone goes undefeated, one team is going to be left out.
That's a good point.
Okay, so the committee has their standards.
But it's not possible. We know there's going to be at least one lost team. We know that for sure.
Not
Because
necessarily.
Michigan is going to beat Ohio like this year, or the vice versa. Georgia is going to lose to Alabama, LSU. There's going to be always one team with one loss.
You usually have it. It's rare that you have a lot of teams in those Power 5s that go undefeated because they play so many other talented teams. That's why the Power 5s get so
Agreed.
much hype, right? They have so
Agreed.
many talented opponents. But let's look at Florida State, okay? They did beat LSU, which was a ranked team. And
At that time.
Yeah, at that time.
And now we realize LSU is not that good.
They weren't that good. No, they weren't that good. I think Texas beat them as well, right?
A lot
Okay.
of people beat them.
And they did beat Duke. But other than that, they didn't have a lot of quality opponents.
Look, this is not basketball Duke.
No,
it's
it's
a
not
football Duke.
Okay,
so
but-
not comparable.
But the committee is essentially, the word on the street is the committee dinged Florida State because their star quarterback got injured. And had he still been there, we probably wouldn't be having this part of our discussion, right?
Hold on. Aren't we supposed to rank the team, not the players?
You would think.
Isn't it about the team's collective?
Right, but if your best player gets injured, your overall team is going to be weaker, and that's what they showed the last 2 weeks. Their offensive production was noticeably a lot less.
Okay, let's segue a little bit. So the best kind of comparison would be, what's the odds in Vegas? Did the odds go down because the quarterback was not there? Probably yes.
Oh,
Correct.
undoubtedly.
Correct. The
Undoubtedly.
over under went down. All of that
And
happened.
spread.
In the ACC championship game, they're playing Louisville. Before he goes down, I don't think anybody questions whether they beat Louisville. But I would say a number of the top predictors were saying Louisville was going to win that game.
How's that possible?
Louisville's really good.
They're a good team.
They're a 2-loss team, nowhere near the cream of the crop. And yet people are considering them to be
Yeah.
able to beat an undefeated ACC team, ACC champion. Never before in history. Ever. Like 7 years? How long has it been going on? 50, 60 years? Never has happened before.
Never happened before. All right, well, let's look at it this way. So let's look at who's in, because we've got the 4 that are in: Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama.
Let's talk about it.
Let's start at the top. Do we agree Michigan, undefeated,
No.
do they belong in this top 4?
No.
Based on beating Ohio, I disagree. Yes.
Strength of schedule, they had the softest schedule. They had to pay UCLA not to play them this year because they were so afraid to take that game early in the season.
How much?
They paid them like 1.5 million.
Wow.
Not
Good for UCLA.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
but right, okay, fine. So you look at their strength of schedule. They haven't played anybody all year. Let's not forget they're being investigated for stealing signs of the team that they're currently playing. That means nothing to anyone,
Look, the coach got suspended 3 games. Okay. Let's look at this, though. They beat Penn State. Okay.
which was a good win.
Good team.
That's a good one.
They beat Ohio State.
Which was
Undefeated up one.
Undefeated, 2 undefeateds, and the number 2 team in the nation. They beat them.
That's their
And
best
then
one.
they mopped up Iowa in the Big Ten championship game. So,
So-
3 undefeated, 3 ranked opponents right
Right
there.
Clean them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, Iowa they beat.
Yeah, they even covered the spread on that Ohio State game. So that was a solid win. That wasn't a fluky win. That was a solid win. They led most of the game. I think
So
Michigan
let's
deserves.
switch a little bit. There's no deniability in terms of, you look at Michigan and Washington, undefeated, went through serious struggles. Pac-12 was difficult for Washington, between Oregon and UCLA, USC, all these teams. Talented opponents, good coaching. Those 2 teams potentially deserve to be there. I think the better question is, we have 2 one-loss teams in Texas and Alabama. Do they really deserve to be there over Florida State? That's, I think, is the key question here.
Wait, before we go there though, how come everyone's just dismissing the sign scandal? No one cares?
That's a big thing for you.
What if A year from now, 2 years from now, the investigation closes and it was proven that they cheated. That means nothing to you?
Assuming you're right.
Okay.
Let's just say it's going to be no different than Reggie Bush and USC, and they're dinking for the championship.
You're probably right.
Okay.
Because
Probably
keep
right.
in mind, it's innocent until proven guilty.
Agreed.
And our system of laws and society is always built on this. Maybe today, the invention of social media and the blast of society saying, look, you accuse somebody of bad deeds, it's automatically you're guilty. It should be taken back. Look, we had a lot of baseball situations and other situations, a football kicker from Buffalo or the Bauer from Dodgers, accused of really bad deeds, maybe justifiably bad deeds, but maybe they were not illegal. And society just came down so hard on them, and the league reacted to those actions and suspended them and basically chastised them for their actions. Might have not been illegal.
And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. And look, they did punish Michigan. They took their coach away for 3 games. We talked about that a few minutes ago. And that hurt, right? It hurt for him. Maybe it hurt for the school. He's back. They still won out. They won some big games late. Leon's right. Innocent until proven guilty. Based on their record this year and who they beat, they deserve to be in the playoff. Whether it later is found out that they shouldn't have been, the NCAA will come down and will strip them or do whatever it is if they have to. But I think you're right also. The bigger question now is, because we don't dispute Washington, the bigger question is, of those last 2 spots that are Texas and Alabama, should it be them? Should it have been Florida State? Should it have been Georgia or anyone else, right? This is the big question. So,
How we solve that problem, I think, is the better answer.
yeah.
I mean, next year, it's not going to be a question anymore.
That's how you solve it.
Isn't it too much? Includers of what, 12 teams now?
Next year it's going to go to 12.
But this year, it's all about today and what happens in reaction. So yesterday, Tua, quarterback from Miami, was on it, and he was super disappointed in terms of the way it went down. He actually commented on that. He goes like, look, Alabama deserves to be there. Is it fair? Maybe not.
Maybe not.
But he didn't dispute Alabama being in there, being his Alabama product.
Yeah, I mean, look, we'll look at Alabama. Okay, they did just knock off the number 1 team in the nation with a
No doubt.
29-game win streak, and it's pretty impressive.
No doubt.
They beat some good teams this year. People kind of knocked them this year because they lost early at home to Texas, who also is there, by the way. But they beat some good teams. They beat Ole Miss. They beat Tennessee. You know,
They were very lucky against Auburn.
very lucky against Auburn.
4th and 31.
And you know what the funny thing is? You go back and you look at that 4th and 31 play. I think that wide receiver pushed off that DB. Nobody's talking about it, but there's an angle that came out that shows him shove that guy right before he creates all that space. That's how he had all that space. Nonetheless, no call. They won that game. They go on to play Georgia as a 1-loss team. Had they been a 2-loss team playing Georgia,
No questions.
it wouldn't have been an
FSU
issue.
was in.
Georgia would probably, or FSU would still be there, right?
Yeah, FSU is in.
So does Georgia do we agree that they're rightfully out?
I don't.
You don't. You think Georgia should have been in?
No, it's a timing.
Well, let's see.
I know, but why is your 1 loss better than their 1 loss?
Timing.
Yeah.
29 wins in a row. You're just like, oh, okay, let's just put that aside. In the SEC to win 29 games in a row?
Incredible, except
Incredible.
life is about timing. Bad loss, bad timing.
It was not a bad loss. It was a close loss.
No. Bad loss means time-wise. You lose at a bad time. Like, committee's gonna look at it. Oh, they just lost. How can you let them in?
Can't lose late. Can't lose late. It's a
In a
shilling.
championship game, cannot lose.
So we're a creature of the moment.
Usually.
If I lose week 1, that's okay. If I lose If I lose
Yeah.
week 12, it's not okay.
What if you-
I disagree with that.
No, I think it's more like you have time to redeem yourself. Redemption.
Yes. Okay. So going back to the 4, who's your 4? Who would you have seen in this playoff right now?
Sports is the ultimate reality TV, right?
Agreed.
It's the one area in our lives that it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, how much money you make, how tall you are, how short you are. None of that matters. If you perform, you will be rewarded. That's why I think we all love the Olympics. I don't care what country you come from. If you can perform on that scale, you deserve all the riches, all the accolades on earth. Florida State won 13 games this year and has never lost, okay?
Agreed.
What did they do wrong? Absolutely nothing. It's a merit-based system, and they never lost. Why are they being punished?
So hold on. So you would have Florida State in there.
Correct.
So who's your 4?
Put Texas with Florida State, and we'll give Washington and Michigan.
Okay. And you think you
So
disagree?
Valid points. No disagreement. How do you put a team who beat number 1 overall, who's undefeated for 29 games, 2 years running in essence? Incredible team, super talented, and they lost to a team who made it, so top 4 team as well. shouldn't they get the benefit of the doubt for that crazy win? Because they basically, on the road, went to Georgia and beat them, the best team in the nation. It doesn't count for nothing.
It does.
So if it counts for, like, let's say, Super Plus, now you have a dichotomy of somebody beat my team in the beginning of the season, my team got better through the osmosis of playing, practice, and everything else, and now we're going to get them punished because they lost to a better prepared team because my team was not better coached, maybe, not as talented or not as developedly talented at that point, versus the team who had a softer schedule. Maybe ACC is not as talented or as tough as it was when the Florida Gators were like dominant with Tebow and everybody else, just dominating people in terms of physicality and talent and the other teams in there. Maybe ACC just got soft. Shouldn't we count for that as well?
I
What do
mean,
you think?
You raise an interesting point, right? Texas is in, right? I don't think any of us really disagree. Like Texas with their win over Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game,
I
they're
agree.
in, and Texas beat Alabama. So if you're going to put Alabama in, you
Yeah,
got to
you
put
have
a
to.
similarly one-loss Texas team in as well.
I think it's a symbiotic.
Right. But the question really is, you need Texas if you have Alabama, but you don't need Alabama just because Texas is there. So the real question is that 4 spot. Is it Alabama? Should it have been Florida State? Should it have even been Georgia? Nobody's really talking about that. That's the only loss. And
It
it's
could
in,
be.
It's in the championship game.
I agree with
and
you.
they were a one-loss team, and it was a good game. It was a
Great
tight
game.
game, right?
Okay.
That's timing.
My personal feeling is the SEC should have been shut out, right? You go and implode in the SEC championship game that way, sorry. And Florida State doesn't get knocked off. They go in there. Maybe they're the 4 seed. I'm okay if they put Texas ahead of them. If not, I'm okay if Florida State is the 3rd seed. But I would have gone Michigan, Washington, Florida State, Texas. And the SEC is on the outside looking in, finally. But, of course, that'll never happen, right? You know?
No, at the end of the day, maybe we don't know something about the money deals that are made and the payment that comes with it. Excellent. We're speculating in terms of maybe because you have an ACC team, there's viewership based, there's something behind this that the committee selection, who basically are athletic directors for the power teams and the power, mainly East Coast actually, surprisingly. We actually looked it up yesterday. Majority of them come from East Coast schools, and their athletic directors was somebody who's very close tied to East Coast teams, ACC, all those power conferences out there. And they look at it saying, look, if we're going to put a team that's not going to generate viewership, it might hurt our product next year.
That's exactly right. That's exactly why they
Maybe.
picked. Most definitely. Look at the line spreads of these Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl right now is Michigan, Alabama. The spread is -1.5. Close game.
Yeah.
Georgia, Florida State. Georgia is -12.5.
Georgia?
Yeah.
Oh, they're in the
The
No, they're not
Cotton
in the
Bowl.
playoff. Here's the irony, though. Both Georgia and Florida State don't make it. They play each other. That could be not only one of the best games of this whole bowl series, but
The game.
it could have been 2 teams that
In
that
the
would have been
playoffs.
in the playoff. It's kind of funny that those 2 are still meeting. They didn't put them out with scrub opponents. They're
Right.
putting them right up against each other. All right,
see.
now let's talk about that. Who do we think is winning? So we've got these matchups: Michigan, Alabama, Washington, Texas. Who's winning that Michigan-Alabama game?
I think
It's-
Alabama, better coaching, better players, and tougher schedule, so they're more ready. I think Michigan, when you play softer teams, you kind of get this thing in your head where you're like, okay, I'm good. USC fell victim of that. First 5 games played nobody. They thought they were the creme de la creme. Then they started playing Notre Dame. They played UCLA. They played Utah. Loss.
so
Alabama.
predictions.
Alabama.
Alabama. I think Washington's going to beat Texas. And we have Washington, Alabama in the finals. Alabama.
So I'm with you on Alabama. I think Alabama beats Michigan. I think that they're going to be better prepared. I think they're going to have a better understanding of what it takes to win this. And Michigan, for, call it what you want, but they're a little bit of a choker, right? I mean, they're not my favorite school, so I'm going to, add that as a disclaimer. But they've been a tough team every year. They're finally getting past Ohio State 3 years in a row. They've been in this bowl championship series in these playoffs, and they haven't been able to do it. I think
So-
Alabama. Okay, Washington,
let me wrap
Texas.
it up.
Hold on, I like Washington. I think I agree with you.
Over Texas.
I think it's going to be Washington beating Alabama.
So we got a little bit of dichotomy here. So I'll pick a little bit differently. So the idea, you have to look at Michigan. It's a running team in a power run. They're gonna run against anybody. So my guess is Michigan's gonna beat out Alabama. Next question is gonna become as Texas is gonna beat up on Washington for the same exact reason because of the power running. And then between the 2 power running teams, I think Texas will take it.
Okay.
Just to give it a little bit. So we got Alabama.
I said Washington.
Washington.
Texas. All right,
So guys, we'll know in
Hopefully, one of
4
us
weeks,
will, right?
couple weeks, yeah.
5 weeks,
Either way, it's going to be
Yeah,
fun.
it's really
5
good.
weeks.
January
No.
10th, January 9th, something
Yeah.
like
Well, I think they're on New Year's Day.
No, the Rose Bowl and the
Yeah.
Sugar Bowl.
The semifinals.
All right,
are
and then a week
New Year's
later,
Day,
that
and then a week
Monday.
later, the championship game.
that. We'll be
You
watching.
know?
Nice seeing you, everybody.
There we go, brother. Thank you, man.
Thanks all.